Hi everyone! The Container Garden series starts now. I am so excited about this series. We're going to turn this empty 7x11 space into a vegetable garden in containers. So if you are limited on space, maybe you have absolutely no garden space to grow in, maybe you just have a balcony, a deck, a patio, a fire escape, even a little window ledge, I'm going to show you in this series how to grow vegetables in containers. Now today we're going to talk about how to get your container garden set up, tips for success for growing lots of vegetables in containers in a small space. We're going to talk about planning your space, choosing the right containers, choosing your soil, and choosing the right plants so you can grow a lot of vegetables in containers. Are you ready? Let's jump in. We've got a 7-foot by 11-foot space here to grow in, which is a pretty small space. In order to grow a lot of veggies in a small space in containers, the first tip for success is to choose the right container. Now, if you've grown in containers before, what you might have done is headed over to the hardware store and grab one of these 5-gallon buckets. Definitely an option, but the only problem with these is, even if you drill holes in the bottom, the plants still aren't getting the air that they need. And what happens a lot of times in these is your plants get overheated, boil in the hot summer, dry out really fast, and the roots get root bound and circle around the bottom of the container. I'm sure a lot of you have seen this in your plants. So you're constantly having to transplant your vegetables in order to get them to grow. Now what I like to grow in is fabric containers. These are called Smart Pots, and we're partnering up with Smart Pots for this series. Now I love these containers because they're made out of fabric, very durable. They're aerated, so the plant is getting the air that it needs. The plants don't get root bound because they do something called air pruning, which allows your vegetables to still take up the water and the nutrients and to grow a lot of veggies in a smaller space. So we're going to lay out our Smart Pots here in this space and see what we can fit in our small space so we can grow a lot of veggies. Our goal here is to maximize our space so that we can grow a lot of veggies here on our balcony. And the Smart Pots containers are definitely going to help me do that. So let me show you what I'm working with here. I have 5 15-gallon Smart Pots and a couple of my CaliKim containers, which have a good amount of growing space too, and also some wall planters, which are going to be really fun. These are actually going to fit right over the deck rail and really help us grow a ton of veggies. Now these 15-gallon containers can fit a lot of vegetables in them, and the first thing I'm going to do is just kind of lay them out here on my balcony so that I can kind of eyeball it and see where I want to put everything to maximize my space. So I'll put these 15 gallons right up against the deck rail here. Don't you love these colors? These 3 colors here are brand new to Smart Pots, and they're going to be available next spring. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So we've got 4 of the 15 gallons over there. Got a black 15-gallon with handles. Now this one's really nice because with the handles you can chase the sun, chase the shade, whatever the case might be. Very, very portable. And then here we have the CaliKim purple Smart Pots, which I think I'm going to stick right over here. This is a fun one for growing with kids. You give your kids their own container and they're going to love growing their veggies with you on their balcony. And here's a little 5-gallon CaliKim. You can grab that over my website. And then these are the wall saddles, which are really going to help us maximize our growing space by growing vertically, making use of every single inch of the space we have here. So we'll drape those over the deck rail. I think it's starting to shape up, don't you? Then we've got one more, the big kahuna, a 6-foot long raised bed, which is going to fit right across here and really help us maximize our space. So let's go grab that. We have our 6-foot long raised bed in place. It's already filled with soil because we've been growing in it previously. So it took a little bit of muscle to get it over, but we placed it here against our deck rail, and I really like how it makes the most use of this space. Well, I love how this is starting to take shape, starting to look more and more like a garden, so I hope you're getting some good ideas too. Now that we have our containers laid out, the next tip for growing a lot of veggies in containers is to choose your soil. Now you might be tempted just to go out and grab some garden soil. You don't want to do that. It's just too heavy and your vegetables aren't going to grow well in containers. So what you want to do is get yourself a good potting mix, specially designed for growing veggies in containers. Your veggies are going to thrive, they're going to be happy, which means you're going to be happy. When you're growing in containers, your biggest investment by far is going to be your soil. So get the best soil that you can afford. Many landscapes companies sell soil in bulk. That might be an option for you. I love using Good Dirt bagged organic potting mix. It's nice and light and fluffy. It's a great investment because you can plant in it time after time. In fact, this container right here, I'm just going to sprinkle some soil in. I've grown in the same Good Dirt for a couple of years, so it's definitely a very good investment. And it has the nutrients that your plants need to really thrive. It's made with sustainably harvested peat moss, and it's got probiotics, lots of good nutrients for your plants. So when you're growing in containers, your plants will need nutrients more often because you're watering more often and the fertilizer and nutrients are draining out the bottom. So what I'm going to do is pour some of the Good Dirt potting mix into this container here. I'm going to add some water to it before we plant. And that way it's nice and moist and the plants are able to take the moisture up that they need to get off to a really good start. You can see how beautiful the soil is. It smells good and it's so light and fluffy. What I'm going to do now is fill my containers with soil and then moisten down the soil as I fill the containers. I'm just adding water. And I think this is a really important step because that way your soil has even moisture throughout before you put your plants in. So we're just going to keep adding water and mixing it into the soil until it's the consistency of crumbly brownie mix. So definitely prepping your containers is probably the thing that takes you the most time in setting up your container garden. The combination of Smart Pots and Good Dirt works really well too. The Smart Pots breathe, which really help your plants, and the Good Dirt soil gives your plants a lot of porosity, which helps them breathe as well. One thing I like to do to make it a little bit easier to fill the containers with soil is just to fold the edges down. And this is one thing you can do to even save on soil a little bit, to make your container just a little bit smaller, depending on your space and depending on how much soil you have. And I love this mandarin orange color. Well, I've got my containers filled with soil. I love how it's taking shape and I'm really enjoying the color pop between the CaliKim purple Smart Pots, the mandarin orange, the berry blue, and the violet. So let me know which one is your favorite color too. What you might not know is that when you're growing in containers, you don't have to dump out your potting mix every time, especially when you're using Good Dirt. It's nice and light and fluffy so you can grow in it time after time. So all you have to do is just add a couple inches of fresh potting mix to the top of your container, just so it has some fresh nutrients for your plants to grow in. You can see I've got a little mint plant growing in here still. A little Chinese forget-me-not, which is a really pretty flower. So I'm just going to add this in, add some water and mix it in just like I would do in my other containers. That way your plants have some nice fresh soil and nutrients so you can grow a lot of veggies in here. Now I'm just going to mix in the soil, and I've got drip irrigation hoses in here already, so I'm just being careful to avoid those so I don't damage them. Just mix in those fresh nutrients right into the container. The third tip for growing lots of veggies in containers is make sure they're getting adequate water. Now I like to set up my containers with a whole separate watering system than the rest of my garden because containers have different watering needs. They dry out quicker, they need fertilized more often, and here I'm using drip irrigation. And I showed you how to set that up in a video in the Spring Garden series. I'll put a link in the description below. Super easy to set up, takes the guesswork out of it, and helps your veggies get the water they need. So I'm just going to go ahead and set up drip irrigation in these containers, and then we'll be ready for the next step. Tip number 4 for growing lots of veggies in containers is to choose the right kind of vegetables to grow. You want to grow plants that are more compact, but yet still productive so you can grow a lot of veggies. So I've got some container-friendly varieties here. These are all in my brand new container garden seed collection, which I put together to make it easy to take the guesswork out of it. So it includes things like red Russian kale. This looks so beautiful in this container. It's perfect in the 5-gallon CaliKim Smart Pots. A Space Master cucumber, which is a shorter variety of cucumber, only grows to about 3 to 4 feet high, so perfect for containers. This is called Lilliput zinnia, which is a dwarf zinnia plant, so it's going to bloom and be absolutely beautiful. And all these seeds I started indoors about 4 weeks ago. And also a sugar baby watermelon, a smaller variety of white scallop squash, and one of my favorites is the tiny Tim tomato. So the container garden seed collection has 12 different varieties. We're going to be planting all of these out on the next episode. It's going to be really fun to see this whole container garden really take shape. Well, I'm getting really excited about the transformation. We started with a blank slate and now it's looking like a garden. Well, follow along with the Container Garden series. This is going to be a lot of fun. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any videos. The next video is going to be on planting. And grab yourself my book, Organic Gardening for Everyone, and the Container Garden Seed Collection. You can save $5 when you buy the book seed bundle. I want to thank Smart Pots for partnering with us on this series, and thank you to Good Dirt for supplying the soil. Comment below, let me know if you'll be following along and planting in containers. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you on the next video.